When you breathe like this, brain circuits begin to accelerate healing, literally within minutes. This is not a vague promise. It is an ancient technique that induces theta states, reconnects what stress has disconnected, and delivers somatic signals you can feel instantly: a spontaneous sigh, warmth rising from the sternum, and a lucid stillness that is not drowsiness. This pattern exists. Science has mapped it, and now you are going to learn it. A saturated mind, a body locked in chronic defense, blocked decisions. All of this comes from a nervous system that has forgotten how to slow down without collapsing. But there is a breathing rhythm that disarms hyperexcitability, synchronizes the vagus nerve, and opens a window of neuroplasticity that is available here and now. A prolonged exhalation, an empty pause, and the brain gets the signal. It is safe to reorganize. Skipping this video means losing access to a functional code you can replicate in 5 minutes and prove in your own body. What comes next delivers the full map. Rhythmic breathing is not a poetic symbol. It is the only autonomic door you can control without asking your brain for permission. Gentle inhalation, long exhalation, brief pause. This pattern synchronizes the vagus nerve, signals functional safety to the brainstem, and turns off the chronic alert that keeps you stuck in defense. What Hermetic traditions used to call aligning the inner fire was their practical observation of what is now known as vagal modulation. They knew that extending the exhale and holding a brief pause would calm the heart, warm the chest, and open mental clarity. The pattern you are about to learn puts the brain into a slower frequency, the kind where emotional memories lose their reactive charge. Creative associations return, and synaptic reorganization finally happens. It reduces sympathetic noise, which fuels anxiety and learned pain, and creates space for blocked circuits to reconnect. This is not a technique to relax a little. It is a reconfiguration of your internal state that restores functional self-governance, effortless focus, grounded presence, and frictionless decision-making. You will leave here knowing exactly how to breathe so your nervous system follows, along with clear bodily signals to confirm that the shift has happened. The code is now in plain sight. Now you will discover where it came from and why it works when other approaches have failed to reach the root. In the mystery schools that flourished in ancient Egypt, the pneuma, the force that animates matter, was guided through the rhythm of breath. This was not an abstract belief. It was a functional protocol. Extending the exhalation, holding the brief emptiness, feeling the chest warm, this restored internal command and opened expanded perception. Medieval alchemists repeated the same gesture in closed chambers, in search of what they called solve et coagula, to dissolve rigidity and reorganize substance. The body was the laboratory, the breathing cycle, the tool of transmutation. Contemporary neuroscience has mapped the mechanism behind the ritual. When the exhalation is extended and the pause creates an empty moment, efferent fibers of the vagus nerve, which run from the brainstem to the heart and internal organs, send a signal to pressure and carbon dioxide sensors. Levels are stable. External demand is low. The brainstem interprets this as functional safety and releases the brain to redistribute energy. Electroencephalograms capture what happens next. Theta waves begin to rise, slow and wide, dominating frontal and temporal regions. The hippocampus reopens emotional files without triggering reactivity. Heart rate variability increases. Autonomic flexibility is restored. Time bends inward. The brain enters rewrite mode. The portal crossed by the ancient masters and the state of plasticity measured in laboratories are the same phenomenon, separated only by the language used to describe them. The technique spans millennia. The exact pattern comes next. 4 seconds of gentle inhalation through the nose. 0 retention at the top. 8 seconds of controlled exhalation. 2 seconds of pause in the emptiness. These exact numbers, 4, 0, 8, 2, form the base code that reconnects the brain. If the body asks for more space, you adjust to 5, 0, 10, 3. What matters is not force, but precision in timing. The exhalation must be twice as long as the inhalation. The pause at the end should be brief but present. This temporal design was not invented. It was discovered in ancient practices and validated in modern labs. It speaks directly to the autonomic nervous system in a language that bypasses the conscious mind. When you extend the exhalation and hold the brief emptiness, the body sends a clear signal to the brain. External demand is low, there is no threat, it is safe to redistribute energy. The vagus nerve, the cable that connects the brainstem, heart, lungs, and internal organs, responds instantly. Heart rate slows down, blood pressure stabilizes. The sympathetic noise that kept you in constant alert begins to fade. And when that noise fades, the brain can finally stop monitoring and start reorganizing. This is not shallow relaxation. It is a measurable change in brain frequency, theta waves emerging. Quiet and wide, opening a plasticity window where stuck circuits start to flow again. The bodily signs that confirm entry into this state show up quickly. The first is a spontaneous sigh, not forced, but rising on its own, as if the diaphragm finally received permission to release built-up tension. This sigh is not emotional, it is mechanical. It is the body letting go of a tonic contraction you did not even know you were holding. Right after that, salivation returns. A dry mouth for hours turns moist in minutes. This is a direct parasympathetic sign. The rest and repair system is back online. Then comes the warmth in the sternum, real thoracic vasodilation, blood arriving where there used to be constriction. This is not visualization, it is physiology responding. You do not need to believe it works. You just need to do the cycle, 4082, for 2 minutes straight and observe what happens. If the sigh comes, if salivation returns, if your chest warms up, you are in. The brain accepted the signal. Reorganization has begun. And if none of that happens in the first rounds, adjust the count. Maybe your system needs 5, 0, 10, 3. Maybe it needs 3 cycles before it lets go. The technique allows some adjustment, but the principle remains the same. Long exhalation, empty pause, consistent repetition. When the body finds the right rhythm, it lets you know. And when it does, you will know the path is open. The rhythm alone is not enough. You need to know where to place your attention while the cycle is happening. There are 2 points in the body that, when touched by awareness during breathing, create a functional axis between brain and internal organs, a direct channel that stabilizes the nervous system and reintegrates internal perception. The first point is at the base of the skull, just above the back of the neck, where the occipital bone meets the spine. The second is at the sternum, near the thymus, between the second and fourth space, between the ribs. These 2 poles were not chosen for symbolic reasons. They were mapped because they concentrate a high density of nerve endings, fascial mechanoreceptors, and autonomic junctions. When you anchor the breath to these 2 points, the body gains a clear internal command line, and autonomic chaos begins to subside. As you inhale, bring your attention to the base of the skull. This is not abstract visualization. It is about feeling from within, as if the air rises through the spine and touches that point from the inside out. This action activates the posterior insula, the brain region that maps internal sensations and integrates body states into conscious awareness. It is like turning on the interoceptive radar. The body stops being background noise and becomes readable information. As you exhale, shift your attention down to the sternum and feel it gently sink as warmth spreads from the center of the chest. This descent releases the diaphragm, decompresses the rib cage, and relaxes the solar plexus, the central autonomic, not located just below the sternum, which, when contracted, keeps the body in a state of invisible armor. This occipital sternum axis is not a modern invention. Hermetic traditions describe the chest as the seat of the heart fire, the place where will and emotion meet, and the back of the neck as the portal of silent will, where intention is born before it becomes thought. Uniting both within the breath cycle was a way to reintegrate command and feeling, head and heart, direction and presence. The language was symbolic, but the act was functional. Today, we know that this dual anchoring stabilizes heart rate variability, a key metric of autonomic flexibility. When variability increases, the nervous system gains response range. It can speed up when needed, slow down when safe, without getting stuck at either extreme. The body regains functional elasticity. The signs that anchoring is working appear instantly. You may feel a light tingling in the back of the neck, as if something dormant has awakened. Warmth rising from the sternum to the throat, filling the chest from the inside out. Focused presence without effort, not tense concentration, but attention that holds itself, because the body is once again a lived-in space, not just something carried around. Breathing that used to stay stuck in the upper chest drops into the abdomen. A jaw that was always tight softens without command. Shoulders that used to lift on their own fall and stay down. These are not psychological effects, they are reversals of tonic microcontractions that you had been holding for so long you forgot they could be released. The double anchor undoes them, not through force, but through a clear signal sent to the nervous system. It is safe to let go. Practice this way. Inhale for 4 seconds while touching the back of the neck from within. Exhale for 8 seconds while feeling the sternum soften and warm. Pause for 2 seconds in the emptiness, keeping your attention on the chest. Repeat. The axis settles in within minutes, and once it settles, the body stops being a battlefield of autonomic tension and becomes a finely tuned instrument. Now you have the full map, and it fits within 5 minutes. Start by sitting with your spine upright, but without rigidity. Let the tongue rest lightly against the roof of the mouth. This helps seal nasal breathing. Hands on your thighs, palms facing upward, opening the chest cavity. Take 3 natural breaths, without controlling anything, just observing where the air reaches and where it does not. This is the settling, the body recognizing its starting point before entering the new rhythm. Then begin the cycle. Inhale for 4 seconds through the nose, bringing your attention to the base of the skull. Exhale for 8 seconds, feeling the sternum soften and warm. Pause for 2 seconds in the emptiness, keeping awareness in the chest. Repeat this cycle for 2 minutes. If the body asks for more space, adjust to 5, 0, 10, 3. Do not force anything. The technique works through precision, not intensity. During those 2 minutes, pay attention to the signs. Spontaneous sigh, salivation returning, warmth in the sternum, quiet mind emerging effortlessly. If any of these markers appear, you are in. The nervous system has accepted the code. At the end of the 2 minutes, return to 2 natural breaths. Open your eyes gently if they are closed, and feel the width of time that has settled in. Do not rush. Let the body register the new state before returning to external movement. This closing seals the practice. The brain records that this rhythm brought something different, and next time the entry will be faster. The technique gains power when you use it at strategic moments of the day, before important decisions, meetings, difficult conversations, choices that require clarity. The brain leaves the noise and enters functional focus. During daily transitions, upon waking, before lunch, when arriving home, to clear accumulated tension and restore internal coherence. In the threshold of sleep, when the mind is still racing and the body cannot switch off. Reactive insomnia, the kind that comes from residual hyperexcitability, loses strength because the system has learned to slow down without needing exhaustion. 5 minutes, 3 times a day, builds a neural pathway. It is not volume that matters. It is spaced repetition with present attention. Progress criteria appear within 24 hours. The background restlessness drops, that agitation without a clear cause, but always there. Breathing moves down from the chest to the abdomen, returning to its origin where stress had blocked it. Sleep deepens, fewer night awakenings, less fatigue upon waking. Decisions come without friction. The mind stops fighting itself before each choice. These are not psychological effects. They are direct bodily feedback that the nervous system has reorganized its priorities. Noise has decreased. Coherence has increased. The ultimate goal is not to depend on the technique forever. It is to integrate the rhythm into the base autonomic system so that breathing like this becomes the natural way of breathing when the body is safe. Defensive breathing, short, high, constricted, stops being the automatic pattern. The long, deep, rhythmic cycle becomes your internal signature of returning to center. And when that happens, you no longer need to remember to breathe correctly. The body already knows. The technique has become identity, and healing, which once felt distant, becomes a state accessible at any moment, because the code is installed and you know exactly how to activate it. Eleanor was 51 years old and 3 months earlier had lost her mother. The pain was not new. She knew the farewell would come, but what came afterward was unexpected. An exhaustion that would not go away, simple decisions that locked up in her chest, and a constant sense that something inside her had shut down. She woke up tired, went through her day on autopilot, and at night lay awake with her mind spinning in circles without exit. Friends told her it was normal grief, but Eleanor felt it was not just sadness. It was as if her body had forgotten how to function without being on alert. It was her daughter who suggested it. After weeks of watching her mother grow more and more distant, she sent a voice message explaining a breathing technique she had learned. Eleanor listened without much hope. It sounded too simple for the weight she was carrying. But one afternoon, when exhaustion finally wore down her resistance, she sat on the edge of the bed, straightened her spine, and began. 4 seconds in, 8 seconds out, 2 seconds in the emptiness. Attention on the back of the neck during the inhale, on the sternum during the exhale. In the 3rd minute, something released. It wasn't a thought, it was a deep sigh rising on its own from the abdomen, as if the body had finally been given permission to let go of what it had been holding for months. The sternum warmed, the jaw, always clenched, softened, and for the first time since the funeral, Eleanor felt there was space inside her. Not the kind of emptiness that hurts, but a silence where she could fully exist. In the 24 hours that followed, she noticed changes she hadn't expected. The constant restlessness was gone. Sleep came deeply, without waking at 3 in the morning. The decision to call her sister, something she had been putting off for weeks, came without internal debate. Eleanor could not believe that 5 minutes could have done that. until she repeated the cycle the next day and felt her body respond even faster, as if it had memorized the way back. Something had been reactivated. It wasn't full healing, it was functional reconnection. And for the first time, she understood that her body wasn't broken. It had simply been waiting for the right signal. What Eleanor felt can now be yours, but it must be sealed in the body, not just understood by the mind. Choose a physical marker that confirms the shift: breath dropping into the abdomen, a soft jaw without effort, a relaxed solar plexus. When that signal shows up during the practice, repeat a simple gesture that the body can remember. It could be light pressure with your fingers on the sternum, an open hand over the chest, or a low sound on the exhale. Anything you can easily repeat in 30 seconds. That gesture becomes an anchor. When the body recognizes it, the state returns more quickly. Also, choose your return point. When tension comes back, when the mind speeds up without reason, use a short phrase. It could be "time bends inward," "I am here," or anything that resonates with you, followed by 3 cycles of the rhythm you've learned. Upright spine, attention on the neck and sternum, long exhale. This is not positive affirmation. It is a somatic command that brings you back to center. The body follows because it already knows the path. The change that began now becomes repeatable, accessible, yours. Healing does not come from the outside. It has been waiting in the one place you forgot to look, in the rhythm that governs the internal time of your own body. For years, you have been breathing as if you were running short, fast, trapped in the upper chest. And the brain, obedient as always, kept you in chronic alert, because defensive breathing is a signal of imminent danger. But when you extend the exhale, hold the brief emptiness, and repeat it with present attention, the body sends a different message. The danger is gone. It is safe to reorganize. And the brain, for the first time in a long time, follows in the opposite direction. The philosopher Simone Weil wrote, "Absolute attention is prayer." She was not speaking of repeated words or pleas to the sky. She was speaking of total presence in the body, of inhabiting your own flesh without escape. When you bring attention to the back of the neck while inhaling, and to the sternum while exhaling, you are not doing a breathing exercise. You are praying in the only language the nervous system understands. The language of repeated gesture, sustained presence, and restored internal time. And God responds. Not with instant miracles, but with spontaneous sighs, with jaws that release, with decisions that finally move from friction to clear action. Eleanor discovered this after losing her mother. You might discover it after losing anything: patience, hope, or the belief that change is still possible. The technique doesn't require belief. It only asks that you practice and observe. 5 minutes, 3 times a day. No forcing, no negotiating with your body, no expectation of instant transformation. Just breathing as if internal time could bend, because it can. And when warmth rises from the sternum, when lucid stillness settles in, when you realize that the background restlessness disappeared without you even noticing, something changes. This is not abstract hope. It is a somatic recognition that the code worked. The pain you carry has layers. Some came from your own traumas. Others were inherited. Still others were learned in environments that were never safe. But all of them live in the same place, in the dysregulated rhythm of your nervous system, in a breath that forgot how to descend, in brain circuits that prioritized alert over presence. When you restore the right rhythm, those layers begin to loosen, not all at once, but with every cycle, every practice, every time the body confirms, I received the signal, I'm reorganizing. And little by little, what once felt like a fixed identity. I am anxious, I am stuck, I can't change, reveals itself as a temporary state, held in place only because no one ever taught the body how to leave it. What you've learned here is not information, it is reactivation. The breath that heals has always been within you. It just needed clear direction, precise timing, and attention in the right place. Now you know, and knowing in the body is different from knowing in the mind. It is feeling the sternum warm and understanding that reorganization has begun. It is noticing the sigh rising on its own and realizing the diaphragm finally released. It is sleeping deeply for the first time in months and waking up knowing something has changed, not because you imagined it, but because your body witnessed it. Healing does not depend on your belief. It happens when you finally stop blocking it. If this content resonated with you, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. It helps us grow this field of knowledge and reach those who have not yet discovered that healing can accelerate when the right rhythm meets the right body. I want to know how this technique is working for you. Write in the comments. I breathe like this, and healing accelerates in my body. That affirmation seals your presence on the path of functional reconnection and tells the algorithm that you chose real transformation. Share this video with someone you know who needs to understand that decades of learned pain can begin to unravel in 5 minutes of conscious practice. And don't stop here. Click on the screen and dive into another transformative piece of content from the channel. Each technique you integrate brings you closer to the body that finally obeys your intention. Remember, when the brain recognizes the right rhythm, healing stops being a distant destination and becomes a frequency you can access with every exhale you choose to extend.